Dave here, how are you? Today is the last of the month for us, last of May, 31st of May 2020. I hope you've all been well and looking forward, as I am, to the draw of this Carbotech lift and lock router lift. Let me have a look what we've got on the show today. I notice people have been chatting away down there. Thank you very much, Derek, for letting me know. All good. Sound is fine. Might be a little bit quiet, but you know, we'll see how it goes. And image, I'm hoping image is coming through perfectly. All of my internet problems, I shouldn't say this, I'll probably jinx myself. They all seem to be fine, or no problems anymore. Okay, so today on the show, you may have well been reading down. It's amazing how many people are watching to see if they're going to win this lift. Also, I just want to let you know that sometimes YouTube asks you to put in, is there paid comment and stuff like that. No, there's no paid comment. Carbotech have not paid me to put the lift as a prize. This is purely for you guys, and I asked Carbotech to give me the lift to give to you, one lucky person in Australia and New Zealand, because I thought it might be a nice thing. That's where it finishes. All right, moving on. So, this week on the show, Ben Farrell has requested to see me fit paper to my sanding drum. So I've got the sander here. I know I've done it before, but we all start our journey with woodworking at different times. And Ben, I think, has only recently purchased a drum sander. I don't know whether he bought it new or secondhand or whatever, but I noticed there was a post on Facebook somewhere. He said, look, no one's done a video on how to do it. Well, it's pretty easy for me to do it on the show. So that's what I'm going to do. The next thing, Timber Tools and Artisans show dates. I'll tell you that right away. Okay, so you got your pens and pencils ready and a bit of paper. The first one, this is through the order. There's going to be 4 shows squished into 3 months. If we are allowed to have public gatherings of that size again. So here we go. Sydney, Rose Hill Racecourse, but a different building. Pretty sure it's a different building. It won't be the one down the end. It's going to be closer to the other end towards Rydalmere, I think, that end of the racecourse. It's going to be 3 days, and it will be the 18th, the 19th, and the 20th of September. The next show will be in Melbourne, and it will also be a 3-day show. And it will be on the 16th, the 17th, and the 18th of October. All good? Now we drop down to the 2-day shows. The last 2 for the year are Canberra and Brisbane. They're both going to be 2-day shows. So Canberra is going to be at the racetrack again, and it will be on the 13th and the 14th of November. Again, this is, fingers crossed, everything's open again. Brisbane will be 2 days at the showground again on the 27th and the 28th of November. So they're 2 weeks apart, those last 2. So I'm going to be extremely busy. You know, as soon as I've packed up from the Canberra show, I basically throw everything on the trailer, jump in the car, and drive to Brisbane. Well, it's going to feel like that. I'm going to have to make some more stock in the meantime. So there we go. That's what's happening with the show. I'm hoping, I don't know where in Melbourne, probably the same venue, Russell. I'm not sure. Thanks, Ben. That's not a problem at all. I'm going to have you like the fresh haircut. It's got 4 days to go. I'm doing a lot of digit stuff today, aren't I? 4 days to go before it's a good haircut. They always say there's only 2 weeks between a bad haircut and a good haircut. Now, I'm not saying this was a bad haircut. The person that looks at it thinks it was fantastic. So that's all. Happy wife, happy life. That's all that's important. Exhibition building, most likely. There you go. Reading some more. Aspire. I'm going to do a very, very simple thing with Aspire. Vicky has given me this draft, this brief, I should say. So that's what she's given me and said, David, can you please do 1 full sheet of melamine with 400 by 400 square chessboards, basically. And she's going to do all the rest of the stuff to them after I've finished it. Each square has got to be 50 millimeters. Now, I was wondering, should I do the 400 millimeter square and make the machine repeat itself a fair bit? Or should I just lay out 64 50 by 50 millimeter squares, however many times that it's going to be? I think it's going to be 18 times. The sheet is 1220 wide by 2420 long. So 400, I should be able to get 3 sheets across by 6 sheets, 3 boards across by 6 boards long. And that's going to be fun. And we're going to do it on a spire. So if you're interested in things like that, we might do that next. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? My easy way to load a full 8 foot by 4 foot sheet on the machine. So I've got things set up out there. I'll show you how an old guy like me can struggle with a full sheet of melamine, the way that I store my sheet goods when I get them here, how I move them from there onto the CNC, and how I lock it down onto the CNC. I probably won't do any CNC work while the show's on because it'll make a little bit of noise in the background. So I'll just set it all up and we'll take it from there. So that's, little things like this. I don't know if you find them interesting or whether you go, oh, been there, done all that, David. Well, the thing is, as I was saying earlier, there's people that are only just starting out, and something that I say might be the trigger for them, and they say, thanks a lot. That's all. Now that all makes sense. I got tickets of it, so haven't I? Okay, what's the next thing? The Carbotech Lift and Lock giveaway. I will draw live on the show. Now, I'm going to let you know a couple of things about that. I use a program called Rafflecopter. Now, a lot of people have their internet address hidden by making it look like they're somewhere else in the world, like it might be Hawaii or it might be Portugal, it could be anywhere. So what I'm going to do is I'll push the pick a winner button on it, and it will pick a winner. Now, if it's obvious that it's an Australian address, I'll leave it there. Even if it's not obvious that it's an Australian address, I will contact the person, not during the show, but I'll contact them after the show, and I will ask them some questions. If the first person that is drawn is not from Australia or New Zealand, because they were the conditions, everyone knows, I will redraw it after. Okay, so you'll all watch the first draw, and if it comes up that someone else has done a bit of a dodgy, I have the capacity to delete that entry and redraw it again. So I can't be fairer than that. If you've got any better suggestions, let me know. We'll see what happens. So that's that. And then if we get time, I'm going to change the blade on my bandsaw because I want to put a rip blade in it. And so I thought you might be interested to watch that process as well. As I say, just little things like that. Let me do some reading. Matthew, hi. Ben, hi Dave, thanks for the demos. Russell, exhibition buildings mostly. Joe, does Carbotech make electric hair clippers? I don't know. DeWalt make that chainsaw. Maybe I should use that. Cheeky bugger. Michael, hi, why not shows in Adelaide? Because it's a long, long, long way over to Adelaide. And I think you have another show there anyway, Michael. Looks like a woolshed job. Thanks a lot, Kiwi. Russell, no Joe, but Victor does. Tippo, g'day, happy Sunday, Dave, and g'day to everyone on the fair planet that are in attendance this Sunday morning and Saturday evening. Hope all are well and safe. Well, that was a hell of a welcome to everyone. Thank you. Greg, morning, and good luck to all in the router lift draw. Michael, Jude, perfectly fair. Good morning, Dave. Okay, thanks, Michael. That's all I'm after is just a little bit of recognition. I can't really see any way of doing it fairer. The thing is, this router lift has got a fair bit of value. It's not as though it's a $20 packet of sandpaper or something like that, where no one's really going to care. This thing's over $500 worth. I want to try and make it as crystal clear and upfront as it can be. Paul, morning. John, let's get them thumbs up. Why not? Why not call them by phone? Because I have got their emails in there. I may not have their telephone number in there, Matthew. Chewy, need my hair cutting. I'm afraid of wife doing. Vicky will do it for you, Chewy, not a problem. She needs a bit of practice for the next time. No, she's done a great job. I'm very happy with it. Okay, bee's knees are rattlers. All right, here we go. I'm going to switch over to another screen. And whilst I do that, I left the mouse out there for my grand entry. Do you like things like that? All right, so I'm going to change the screens here in a second. Let me see what I can do. I've got that one there, which is the one that I'm after. Back to this one in front. And aspire with that. Now, I'm not going to have any text coming down the side, but I think I will go down into this bottom corner over here while I do this. If I don't, put up with me for about 5 or 10 minutes while I do the demo that you can't see. All right, there we go. Now I should be down in this corner. And I'm not going to switch back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file. And it's giving me all the sizes here. And I'm going to make it 1220 wide, which is the width, remember. Across the page is the x-axis. And then the y-axis is going to be 2420, which is the size of that sheet. Now, it's not going to really matter. I'm not going to go through the melamine. I'm only going to be doing surface work on it. I think that's about all, but I click that button okay, so I've got the left-hand corner, bottom left-hand corner, which you can see down here. That's my reference point for everything. And I'm going to work off the top of the board, the material surface, not off the machine bed. Resolution is all good, okay. Canadian maple for 3D, well, I might just leave it like that. Now the first thing I want to do is I want to put a rectangle down in this corner, a little 50mm by 50mm rectangle, and I want it to be 2mm away from the edge. The reason being, I don't like the edges of boards when you first get them from a shop or a plywood wholesale place or whatever, because they've been damaged. So I always cut the edge off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I want to create a rectangle. I'm going to have square edges, and I'm coming in 2mm and up the page 2mm from the corner, bottom corner down here of my sheet of melamine. Now, I've already filled these details in. It's 50mm, but look, it's easy to do. Just go 50.0. There it is. And when I click on create, we'll get a little square down there. There we go. Now I wanted that to be bigger. I'm going to close that so I don't stuff anything up. Now to move things around, I'll just move this beautiful cup. To move things around, I'm going to push down on my mouse scroll wheel, and I should be able to move things up to where you can see them. If I push away on my scroll wheel, it increases the size so that I can see. Now I don't really need to see it that big, so I'm going to pull back on the scroll wheel and drag it back over a little bit more, because I want to be able to see 8 of them. There we go. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight that rectangular or square vector by just left-clicking on the mouse and drag up over it, and I've woken the vector up. I'm probably losing people all over the place at the moment, but you know, especially if nothing's come up. You're all probably there saying, Dave, Dave. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I want 64 of those little fellows. I want them to be hard up against each other, and I want to have 8 by 8, which is a conventional chessboard. So down here we have this thing called array copy. So I'm going to click on that, and it shows gaps. I don't want any gaps between these, because I want all of those to be nice and tight. So 0, and I want 8 rows by 8 columns. So 7 there. All I'm doing is left clicking on the mouse to make it increase the number. There we go. So they're going to be 50 by 50, 8 rows by 8 columns. There is no gap. And if I click this, as if by magic, we're going to have a chessboard. Easy. Now, the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to say, all right, well, this vector, I can left click over here, close this, left click here, and all the vectors have gone back to sleep. They're all individual vectors. See, if I open one up, that's just one vector. But if I left click from the right-hand side and drag the mouse across the whole lot up to there, I've woken them all up. If I drag from left to right, it doesn't do it. It does it another way. So just a little tip. Now I want 3 of those groups or blocks or whatever you want to call them of vectors across, and I want 6 up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the size of what we've got there so you can see it a bit better, a bit more down here. Now I don't want to use, I'm tight with this, so what I want to do is I want to cut these out with my track saw. I don't want to use the CNC to cut these out, the boards from each other, because 400 times 3 is 1200, and I'm not really going to have much. If I was to do it with a 1/4 inch cutter, which is 6.35 millimeters, I'm not going to have enough material there. So the quickest way for me to do this, and the most economical way to get what I want out of this board, is to leave a 2.2 millimeter gap between this, on the y-axis and the x-axis between each one of these. Now remember, I'm 2 millimeters in and 2 millimeters up for my first one. Now what I'm going to do, because all of those vectors there as a group are awake, now I can go again over to array copy, and I want the board to be 400 by 400, which is what's there. It realizes the size. I want 6 rows, because rows go across, and I want 3 columns, because columns go up. Remember, they support things in old Greek buildings, you know, columns. That's easy ways to remember it. The gap I want is 2.2 millimeters on the x-axis and also on the y-axis. All good? Let's see what happens. Done. Now that might look higgledy-piggledy, but what I can do is now hit the close button and scroll away, and you'll see right here, there, that's my 2.2 millimeter line down there. And if I come up even bigger, you'll be able to see it. Now there are going to be nearly 1,000 squares that I'm going to use a 45-degree cutter going down 1 millimeter into the board. So now I'm going to go across from CAD, because this has been computer-aided design. I'm going to go from CAD over to CAM, which is computer-aided machining. So I'm going to click this button here, and my all of my menu on the left-hand side, which is CAD, is going to disappear, and a menu will pop up above my head on the right-hand side. So there we go. All good. Are you enjoying this? Okay, now I want to use a profile toolpath. So I'm going to left-click on that, and you can see all of those squares are showing up. This will be a lot of work with just an ordinary router. I've set it already to 1 millimeter deep that I want to go in, and the cutter that I'm going to use is this one. Now it's down here, which is a V-bit, 90 degree, 12 mil. Now it doesn't matter if it's 12 mil or a bit bigger. The point is the center is the important thing with a V cutter. So we're going to say, I think everything looks good. The maximum depth that can go is 4 millimeters. Well, we've overridden that. Well, we haven't overridden it. That's the maximum it can go in one pass. But we're telling it it's only going to go down 1 in the computer-aided machining section over here. So forget about step overs. It's not going to be doing any. It's only going to do a single pass. Then we have the speed. It's going to be, the spindle is going to be turning at 20,000 RPM. Now I don't think it really needs to go that fast. I'm going to slow it down to 18,000 RPM because it's only really doing a tiny score, right? It's if it was cutting down and actually doing a slot rather than just a V, I would increase the speed up. If it was another cutter, it's going to travel at 5 meters a minute. Okay, so it's 5,000 millimeters in a minute. You work it out as to how far that is every second. Divided by 60 and you've got the answer. The plunge rate down here is how deep it will go over a minute. So it's 3 feet, 900 millimeters in a minute. But that's only just that first little bit for a millimeter. There we go. So now I'm going to say apply, and then I'm going to say select. All right. What else have we got over here? I want the machine to cut on the vector. I don't want it off the left-hand side or the right-hand side of the vector. I did that back to front, but it probably worked for you. So I want it on, and I'm going to do conventional, which means it's going to travel in a clockwise direction around the vector, not a counterclockwise or anti-clockwise. If you're doing carving, they always say climb. If you're using V-carve, it will default, and that's all it will do is a climb cut. Because as it does that, because the machine's big enough to handle it, it's not going to have anything run away with it. Because it's using the board the job that you're cutting into as its own sacrificial part. So it will cut and cut and cut, rather than going where the cutter is actually blowing out past and chipping. So for the V cutter, it'll be fine. All right. Did I look a bit vague then for a second? Possibly. All right, so now we're coming down here. I don't need to add any ramping, which means that the cutter would be, instead of just going straight down, if it was a larger cutter, it would come in at an angle. And normally I make it do that at about 20 degrees. And it works fine. So this, as I say, just being a point, it'll be fine. All right, now, we don't need any tabs. Everything's fine. This safe Z down here, which you can't see, of course, because I'm right in front of it. I just realized. Okay, safe Z is how high the cutter is going to lift up above the board before it goes to the next tool or the next vector to start cutting. Right? Remember, there's 1,000 of them here. So it's going to go up, and the Z drive is going to be very tired at the end of it. I'm going to call it Vicky 400 chessboard, and I'm also going to say what's in there. I'm going to go to capitals now, V cutter, so that I remember when this comes up in the G code, when I put it on the machine, when I actually feed it into the laptop that runs the machine, the G code will come up, and the first thing it'll have across the top is the name, which is Vicky's 400 chessboard V cutter. So I will then think, I've got to put the V cutter in. If I've got a straight cutter, it's going to be ugly. So now I'm going to calculate it, and you watch what happens. When I've calculated, you can see it there. Now I'm going to say, preview the selected. I'm going to back it off a little bit in speed, and let's see how it goes. Now I'm also going to do the toolpath color. Can I pause it or not? Look, I'll speed it up so it finishes. There we go, all done. And I'll do the toolpath color. It was there white, so let's go to, look, blue's a nice color. There you go. So you can see all the toolpaths, and if I come in, you can see where it's traveling there. Now, what I have no idea why we have these patches that it's not showing any toolpath. It's going to happen. That's the toolpath, and that's all there is to it. So now I can click on the Z button up here, and it takes it back to the God's view, looking down, like plan view, looking down on it. I can go to a three-dimensional view, which like looking from the side by clicking on this next one up here. And then I can go to the X-axis, and I can spin the board around and have a look at the Y-axis. Now, because this isn't really a 3D drawing that we're seeing, like a render, well, I don't really need to worry about that. I can make it look all sorts of different colors and all that kind of stuff. And then the last thing I do will be go to, let's have a look how long it's going to take. It's telling me it's going to take 2 hours and 17 minutes. This is why it's not happening on the show. It's going to take half that time. It'll take around about an hour, which is pretty quick for all of that. Then I have to cut cut the boards out. But I'm happy with that. Okay, that back to here. And then I would go to this, which is the save the toolpath. And I would save that as an Avid CNC because that's the machine and that's the actual code that my machine uses. There's a whole heap of codes there that you can go to. Whichever machine you've got or whatever code you need, it'll be in there. All right, and then you save the toolpath to a little USB stick. And I stick that in the laptop that runs the machine. And away we go. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to now come back to here and go back to here and here and hopefully minimize that and everyone should be back again. All right, 1,152 squares. So thank heavens, thank heavens, it all went. It went well. And again, this is not going to be everyone's cup of tea. This is something, Vicky will probably be watching the show now and getting very bored because she's seen me do it so many times. And I understand that for you guys as well. But I just, if I'm getting stuck for words now because I get excited about this. So if I get my head around something, I find it very, very easy to relate that knowledge and information to anyone. I keep things basic as much as I can. You notice during that conversation then, I was saying click with the right mouse button, click with the right mouse button. If I had deleted something, I would have just said delete it. I would have said push the delete button. You know, people presume that you have a certain amount of knowledge, and a lot of people don't. That's all there is to it. All right. Okay, now, can't wait for the end. Dave, can't see your comments. No, probably not. Brett, all very interesting, Dave. CNC is high on my list of goodies to procure. Have you left enough space to allow for the kerf of the blade when you cut into the individual boards? Yes, as Ron said, 2.2 millimeters. Toolpath square have changed in that view. How confusing. Your explanations are excellent. Thanks, Dave. I didn't get to read a whole heap of comments there because I didn't really have enough room to have Vectric up and also have a little box because you want to see me, and also to have the conversation as well. So we can catch up on that if you have the chat enabled after the show. If I adjust the show at all, like if I cut the front off, remember that week, a couple of weeks ago, where the show just was horrible. The beginning fell apart. We had a really bad connection onto, I had a bad cable connecting. So I cut the front 2.5 minutes off. Well, then all of the chat disappeared except for what I had embedded in the show. All right, so there we go. That's that. The next thing we're going to do is go out to the table. Okay, Terry, how are you? Out to the machine, and I have the chat enabled there. And I think that's that one there. And I'll show you how I load things onto the machine, how I lock it down. Here we go. So you can see out here, I'm going to walk past. I won't be able to read anything. I can't read anything while I'm out here. But what I'm going to do is all of my sheet goods, I stack horizontally. For a CNC machine, if you have any bow in it, it's going to be horrible because the machine works from above on the gantry. It's not sitting on the product and riding over. So if I want to do something at the moment, which these slots are 1 millimeter in depth, if I had a bow, well, I'd be 1 millimeter on the corner. I might be going in 5 or 6 millimeters in the middle. So hence, I have to stack all of my boards dead flat. That's why I've got the pallet racking here. And I have this table. Now this table, I slide out because it's on wheels. It's a big, heavy cypress pine table. If you go to the shows, I always bring this table with me. This is the biggest thing I take to the show, and I set up on top of this. It's got locking casters on it, so I'll lock those just at the back. And I'm going to get a sheet of melamine out. These are all 8 feet by 4 feet, or basically 1220 by 2420. So they're not actually 2440 long, which is a proper So there it is. I haven't had to argue with it at all. It's straight down. When I bring the stuff here, I back the trailer up because I load the trailer up when I go to a plywood wholesale place, and back in with the trailer, and then, sorry, I back up to this table, load it all onto this table, and then I can roll it around to wherever I want, slide them up into my rack. I turn it sideways, as a matter of fact, to do that. But anyway, the next thing, it is very, very, very important to make sure your bed doesn't have any dust or chips left over. So this morning I went over it with the vacuum, cleaned it all off. Sometimes I'll run the CNC. I've got a little program, Avid CNC, called Go Tidy Your Room. So what happens is the machine starts off here with the dust hood down a little bit, so that the brushes are pushing down into it just a little bit, and then it does this path backwards and forwards while the dust extractor is running. And to run the dust extractor, I click this button, and you can hear it down there now running. These things are fantastic. Get yourself a set of these wireless things. All right, now the next thing, of course, is put it up on here. This is MDF. There's a bit that the vac didn't get this morning. This is MDF, and it's anchored down to 4080 aluminium section. The whole bed is made of that. With this machine, I had to make my own spoil board to go on top of it. I did make these ends here to protect the sensors. So the sensors tell the machine when it's come back to a certain point. So it's when it's homing. So I get it come back and it goes, there's one this is the Y sensor. The one on the other side is the Y slave sensor. I'm going to turn this around just a little bit more so you can see what's happening over here. Is that a bit better? And on the side is the X sensor, and up the top on the boom at the top of the Z axis is the sensor for the Z. So that's for the height this way. It's all fun. If I can demystify it for you at all, it's great. People say, oh, you know, why have a CNC? Well, it's another tool, and people say, if you don't use it, it's not worth it, you know, if you don't have mass production. Well, I disagree. You don't have to get one this size, and believe me, this isn't a big one in comparison to what a lot of companies have got. They're monstrous things, and they've got things with suction caps that pick sheets up and drop them down. They cut kitchens out all over the place. But it's a good size. It's great because I can put a full sheet on it. It's a tool, and I might leave this for about 2 months and not use it. But then when I do need it, I might have it running for an hour. I might run it for a couple of days. It's the same as my router table and the router lift, which we're going to be doing the draw for possibly another 20 minutes or so. You'll have to remind me. I may not use the router table for a couple of months. It's the same thing, except for it's more dollar value expended. So it's your call as to your situation as to whether or not you get something like this or something smaller or something bigger, you know, or not at all. Your call. It's your money. You do with it what you want. All right, I'm going to lift this up like so. Pretty easy so far. I slide her on. Slide her around. So I need to make things one-man operation as much as I can. Next thing I do is I get some of John's dogs, these little guys here, and when I did the spoil board, I laid things out so that it would work with a full sheet. So I put one dog down the end, like that, and I put one here. These things are great because if the cutter on the CNC runs into them, being a plastic dog, 3D printed, it's not going to hurt the machine. I love these things. So then if we've got, say, I love using the TSO dogs for other things. Peter's got his dogs as well, the Path dogs. But I think the TSO dogs I like because there's two different sizes. I'm waffling again, aren't I? There's a tight dog and one that's just a little bit loose. So depending on the bench you've got, because it's a wooden product. It's going to expand and contract. So the holes even in my Stanton benches, at the moment with it being humid, I may have made those benches while it was hot and dry. Remember, we had a massive drought. And when it's got to someone else's house, the thing might swell a little bit. You might need to clean the holes out a little bit with sandpaper. The other thing, as I say, is you can use the TSO dogs because they have some that are slightly less in diameter. So I'm going to put a couple of these down the side here. And then I'm going to come around to your side. Keep working. And slide it down the edge until it hits that bumper at the end. Beautiful. And here I've got a drawer full of stuff, and I've got more of John's cam clamps and a couple of bits of wood. I thought I had a couple bits, maybe the other one's gone. All right, so I lock I've got 3 holes down the side here that are 20 mil diameter, and that's no good like that. But if I put this packer in there, will it work? No, let's try the smaller one, because it might work all the way around. There we go. That's locked him. Pretty cool, isn't it? And the one down the end here. Brings it up nice and tight. So these things are fantastic for the CNC. Now, because of the weight of the sheet, and because I store it flat, it's going to sit really well here. Not a problem at all. Very, very nice. You may or may not be able to see the chipping along the edge here from the... this is just how they come. You can't really use the edges of sheets. They're rubbish. Some plywoods, if it's a really good ply and they've looked after it, yes. The birch ply, I might get away with it, but I normally try and cut my own edge. It can't go this way at all. I've locked it in this direction. Those cam clamps are doing their job. And that's that. So I'm going to go to the other screen now. And switch over the cameras. All right. Morning all from Mongrel. How are you? Young bloke watching the show today. Okay, I'm reading through. That's brilliant. Sure saves the back, etc. Well, why not? And then when I finished, I just pushed that table back under the Dex-in racking. I've got things in different spots, so I know that the legs can travel through. And no, I had to make the sheet up myself, Lostwitz. It was a 2400 by 1200, and then I added another 6 inches or 150 millimeters down the side, and then across this end I think I added as well. So I dominoed it all on. I may have done a bit of a video showing you all that happening, but it's wider across the end, obviously, so because I'm protecting the sensors so they don't get bumped by me or anyone else. And also it protects, if my grandson's in here, his eyes are about the height of the top of the table, so I didn't want anything sharp for him to run into. Let me have a look here. Okay, Matthew, Dave, watch this show, love woodwork, watch it every week like going to school. So don't stop. Okay, well, thank you very much, Matthew. I'm hoping it makes sense for you. Ian, yeah, great to have the youngsters involved. Ron, you want one? It's up to you, buddy. You can get little ones, you can get big ones. You know, again, it depends on what your budget and your need, and it's your need, not what someone else tells you you need. It's what you want. Remember when when I first built this place, and my mother said, "What are you going to make?" I said, "I'm going to make David happy," and it worked. It really did. All right. Carl, a little less complicated than your monster. Lostwitz, what size sheet was your spoil? What you have to answer that. Good morning, Jim. Any news from John Kiwi? He's not travelling too well at the moment. He's that kidney is really causing him a lot of pain. So you could leave a message here. He might be able to answer it. further down the track. Jump into the live stream chat group on Facebook, because John often comes into there. You could ask him there. Okay, Dylan, can you surface the whole area of your wasteboard? No, I cannot. Now that's an interesting point, because the CNC has got what's called dead stops or full stops or physical stops. So basically the CNC can only travel a certain distance and it goes clunk and then it just comes to, it stops. You don't want it to do that. You try not to let it go clunk. So it has stops that are set into the software. So it'll go to a certain point and then it will just stop. So if it comes back towards the sensors turn the machine off, and then I have to kind of go into Mac 4 and say enable and then get it going. There's a couple of things, there's tips and tricks for doing that kind of stuff, but that's part of the fun, is the learning curve. Listen, I got 18mm color board from a certain supplier, and the entire sheet had an 8mm chamfer on all edges. Sounds great, no rough edges, but it made the sheet useless for what we needed. I've been thinking about using, there's Portamate, I think, have color boards. I've been very interested in maybe getting one, because it'd be nice to make one of these tops out of it. It sounds great, no rough edges, but it made these, yes, okay. So, Kiwi, sorry to hear. Pass on my best wishes, not on Facebook. Okay, fine. Wayne, in between your benches and Vicky's boards, the CNC is the go for you. Yeah, you saw up in the rack the stock of benches that I make. So if things go quiet, I might make up, I'll throw through 4 sheets through the machine. I'll make up eight benches. So it doesn't finish there though. There's a lot of work happens in here. So they're worth the money, I'll tell you. If you want one, check the description box down the bottom. Dave, you're like a kid with a new toy. And why not, Ron? You know, you only get one shot at life. Why not enjoy it? Why not? So, Dylan, so how do you ensure the wasteboard is perfectly flat to the travel of the machine? I do a surfacing cut. So at the moment, I have what basically is a dish cutter, or you could use a mortising cutter for the wasteboard, and it travels around. You just tell it to go off, often it doesn't. So it's only going to be an issue if I have something that's larger than the surface of that. Now my full 8-foot by 4-foot sheet fits on my wasteboard with a bit of room to spare. So what you do if you're having something that's longer, say with that board that's 2.7 meters long, that big chunk of hoop pine that I was given, what I'll do is I'll put 1/4 inch plywood gluts down for it to sit on. So it can travel over the end, because, let me see if I can explain this correctly for you. Let's say this is the board that I've put on my wasteboard, and the end has got a 2mm lip on the board that sits up, and my particular board is too long to fit on the whole machine. It's going to hang over the end. Well, it would come up 2mm at the end and sit there, and then I wouldn't get a correct cut on this board. So if I can lift this, and this is 1/4 inch, if I could lift my job 1/4 inch up from the normal part of the wasteboard and support it sufficiently, Bob's your uncle. It's fine. There's ways around everything. Lost West, do you mean the MDF with coloured core? That stuff is cool. We got 4x12 cover sheets a few months ago. It was so odd to cut up. Yes. Give me a second. I'll see. It might be here. It might be here. The people sent me up some samples. Yeah, I've got it here. It says Porter. It's Four's Colour, it's called. So this is the stuff. They sent some samples up. See that? Now inside here, these are the different colours. So it's colour all the way through. So I was thinking about asking them if they could send up some of that colour, which is kind of blue. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? Who'd want a Stanton bench made out of a colour? That could be cool. All right. So I don't know where I think they're down in Melbourne area. If you wanted to, your call. As I said, I asked them if they could send some samples up. They'll send samples too if you want. I limited my wasteboard to the area I could surface to avoid having a lip. You don't really have to worry about that, Dylan. Same, Russell. Okay. It get quite dark when you oil. Oh, right. It probably would. It probably would. I wonder if they do a lighter colour. Where are we up to? We're starting to have too much chat. Cut that out. What do we got next? The Carbotech lift giveaway draw. Oh, one other thing. I'm spinning you out, aren't I? I'm going to make you wait. You guys know that I'm always in Aldi, and you know they put that centre aisle, the centre section of shelves and baskets down the middle of Aldi, and they have all the goodies there that you don't need. You don't need these things. They're chewing gum beside the cash register, the same kind of impulse buying. So I always check for things that are tool-wise. Some of the things I don't really like. Some things I do like. So, like those Walmart chopping boards. What a bargain, $6. Anyway, so I saw this, and I thought I'll buy that and give it a try. You know why? And Aldi aren't asking me to do this. I'm just sharing some information. 60-day money-back guarantee. If it's rubbish, I'll take it back next time I go shopping. So here we go. I'm going to get a lead. I'm going to try and get a lead. I've been using the chainsaw a heap yesterday. We had a storm a while back, and I've got a willow tree in the front garden over a deck, and it also goes over the neighbour's place where they park their cars. And what happened was the willow tree, every year willows grow a little bit more and a little bit more, all these fine branches. It looks like a big broom head almost, so this massive collection. Of course, I planted the tree, my son was 4 and now he's 40. So it's 36 years ago I planted this tree. So it got old, so some parts were dead, some parts were still alive. Anyway, this massive area. The wind blew up and it snapped the top, but it just hung there, like an elbow hanging. I was waiting for it to fall on my neighbour's car. So I ended up with the DeWalt chainsaw that I got. It's perfect. I love it. And so when you got the saw out, there's none of this trying to start it. Sorry, Ian. But I just find electric chainsaw. I've had electric chainsaws for a long time, but the battery ones, great. Dirty tree, eh? So look, let's open this up. And what have we got in here? It says it's a nail gun and stapler. Now that kind of got me interested. I don't know how it can also be a nail gun. So on the underside here, it's got all this. So let's take it off and have a look, only if you're interested. Willow's turn very nicely on a lathe. Dave Macker wants you to get on the draw. He's excited. Well, he's just going to have to wait. Are you guys having a party around there? Or is he sending you emails in the background? Let me just do this, because after I do the draw, I know what's going to happen. You're all going to bugger off of me. It's an Australian saying. It doesn't mean anything nasty. It's just, it's a bit of a colloquial thing. Haven't I stuffed this up? Haven't I what? Look, I'm just going to plug it in and be done with it. Wherever, over here. Do they do battery style these things? So we pull this back and I can see I can put staples in there. Let's have a look. I don't know how to load nails, but it says it takes staples and nails. So the staples are in this little cartridge at the bottom. Push that shut, and it's got a little switch on the back here. I think that's on. We'll find out in a second. I'm going to try it in a bit of rosewood, see how it goes. What do you think about that? All right, rosewood's one thing. What about cypress? Cypress is a bit denser. Perfect. How cool. How cool is that? I think I might keep it. I need to read the book on how to... These things are crazy. The first 5 pages in anything these days is the safety instructions. I should have been wearing these. I really should have. But I didn't. I don't know how to load nails. I'm sure I'll be able to work it out. But I think it's going to be might be a keeper. Might be a keeper. Okay. Aldi doing clamps on Wednesday. Some are good, others not so much. Can't have enough clamps. You need a wireless lead. Yeah. Just like a Bluetooth lead almost. All right. How about we do the draw? Now this is going to be a little bit time consuming because how are we going for time? It's 11:51. Yeah, we can do the draw. Yesterday, I bought a cheap Brad nailer stapler on eBay. It was for one job. No, it wouldn't be without it. That happens. Am I spinning out a bit more? My angle grinder, my 9 1/4 inch angle grinder is an Ozito, and it's the best angle grinder I've ever had. There's no brushes in it. It's an induction motor. Beautiful machine. I think it cost $60, brand new. Had it for years. Mike Hughes, yes, Les Nielsen, be careful leaving the stapler turned on for extended periods. Your Aldi one just stopped working the other day. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pull the lead out. There we go. Fixed. Thank you for telling me. Yep. Well, you can see all my nail guns I've got up there. I've got gas guns. I've got compressed air guns. This is all left over from when I was building. DeWalt makes nail guns as well. Yeah. Well, I've got DeWalt guns up there, the battery guns. They're great. Now, let's turn around and have a bit of a look here at what I'm going to do the draw on. Spin him around, and there we are. So down here, this is it. I'll come back in the light a little bit so I'm not in the shadow. This is the Carbotech lift and lock, and why I like it is because everything I do is from above. I've just unlocked it. Push that down. I can raise. I'm going to raise it up because I want to take that cutter out. There we go. Pull that out. And I have my switch disabled down here. I've got this little yellow thing. It lives in there. If it's in there, I don't do this. All right. Separate it. Gotcha. Out comes the cutter. Oh, one of the other things, Cole did a really nice thing for me the other day. He sent down a new, this is my 1/4 inch reducer that goes in the collet. And this is the one Cole sent down to me. Now it's got 4 slots around the top, and at the other end, it's got 4 slots as well. So this allows really, really good clamping, where my old one, which I've had as long as I've had the Makita, has got 1 full slot and the other 2 are kind of almost continual slots through. So it's clamping on 1/3. This is a clamping on 1/8. So much, much better. Thanks for that, Cole. So it lives in there. Then I would... It's got the lift in it because I can't bring the Triton all the way up to the top. Because it'll lock means I have to go underneath again. I don't want to do that, so I've got an extension piece in there. Lower it down till it's out of the way. Locked. Beautiful. All right, that's enough. You guys are hanging on to the edge of your seats. Oh, I got the power. All right, I think about there. Come around again. Nearly time. Nearly time. You had a good day today? You've been enjoying the show? Loads of AgQuip shows, woodworking, is your passion outside engineering. Switches with removable key, can't find them anywhere. I've got an NVR as well. All right, let me have a look. What have we got here? I'm looking for Rafflecopter, which is underneath there. And if I go to transition, and this will be a transition, and then here we go over to here, underneath. Now you can see here, this is Rafflecopter. I'm sure you can see it. Let me know if you can see it before I go any further. How many entries? Over 2,500. All right, so I haven't even printed the entry, so I'm going to slide this down. That's the Carbotech lift and lock. And you see here, this says add a random winner. Now, as I said, hi Chad, how are you? As I said, this will pick a name and it will throw up the person's email at the same time. There's nothing I can do about that. Excellent, thanks. So what's going to happen, it will throw up an email and we'll know straight away if it's an Australian email, because it will also tell me where it thinks the person lives. So I will get in touch with that person, or if you're on the show, you're going to jump up and down anyway. You ready? Here we go. Add a random winner. Robert. Now Robert hasn't given me his surname. s1robertw@gmail.com. I will get in touch with Robert and send him an email, obviously, and we'll just work out whether if he's in Australia or New Zealand. If not, we'll do a redraw, or I will do a redraw over the next day or so. So you still may have won if this person isn't who they say they are. So congratulations, Robert. I'm over the moon for you, and I will get in touch with you, and then I will get in touch with Carbotech after that, just to make sure, and get it out to you, whether it's in Australia or New Zealand. All right, I think that is going to be the end of the show. I'm going to go back to here, transition, and there we go. Did you enjoy the show, guys? It's nice. It's nice having a little bit of something to give away, and it's nice to talk about machines, the way that I do things, and I've probably got people dropping off all over the place at the moment. Boo-hoo, but I did manage to make your own route of this list. Well done, Robert, Dave, and Carbotech. Oh, it's Carbotech. Is it Derek? The Zoom meeting. Oh, did you, Josh? I thought you might have. Get back to work. So we've got the Zoom meeting for patrons. That will start in about another 5 or 10 minutes. If you don't know how to get onto it, what you do is you go into the Patreon channel, and if you're not a patron yet and you want to become part of this Zoom meeting, you go in, register to become a patron, and then I think about 2 or 3 items down the list is the key. You click on that and you put in the password, and we can have a chat. It's been good. There's been around 12 people joining me in the meeting after it. The Zoom meeting runs for about 30 minutes, and it's fascinating to have this after show chat. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. Look after yourselves, be nice to each other, and I think I'm going to get over to here. And thank you so much to all of my patrons as well during these trying times. It's looking after me. So I shall see you possibly midweek. I don't know how long I'm going to go with the midweek shows. I'm starting to run out of stuff to talk about. We might go back just to the weekly one soon, but we'll see what happens. I've got to work tomorrow down in Sydney, so there you go. Look after yourselves again, as I say, be nice to each other, and I shall see you next time. Bye.